Good afternoon, everybody. It's Tuesday, the 15th of October, and we are now less than 2 weeks away from the International Association of Scientologists event at St. Hill, which is happening next Friday. And of course, will be gathering in protest against the abuse in the organization. And I thought I would give you a little bit of an update about what's going on at St. Hill and what's going on with their childcare arrangements, because it is slightly concerning. In fact, more than slightly concerning. But first, let's have a little look at what things are like on the ground. So for those of you who are new to the channel or unaware about what on earth I'm talking about, every year, the International Association of Scientologists, the IAS, that's the official membership body of the Church of Scientology, gather at St. Hill, their UK headquarters near East Grinstead, in what's touted as the greatest gathering of Scientologists. It is one of the, if not the largest fundraising event in the Scientology calendar, and thousands of Scientologists travel from all over Europe to attend this event, to hear David Miscavige, their elusive leader, speak for about 3 hours about how Scientology is expanding and changing the world. And that is happening next Friday. It's actually a 3-day event. There's the Friday main IAS event where Miscavige talks about everything that goes on in Scientology and has happened over the last year and how they're changing the world. And then on the Saturday, they have the Patrons Ball, which is the main fundraising element of the weekend. It's where all the big Scientology donor families trot up on stage and get their photo taken with Miscavige. They get their awards for donating millions of dollars. And then on the Sunday, there is the charity concert where Scientology invite local dignitaries, politicians, the mayor to attend and have a little bit of a boogie. And again, it's another opportunity for Scientology to promote what they've been doing and try to demonstrate that they are benefiting the public. Even though the Charity Commission ruled in 1999 that Scientology does not benefit the public, it still doesn't stop them from trying to make that case. The IES event this year is actually kicking off a day early with an event at Hever Castle on Thursday, and that'll be interesting to see how that goes down. It is going to be a welcome dinner that I covered in my last video. But first, let's have a look at what is going on the ground at St. Hill. This is a photo that was sent to me earlier today to show the tent. Now, St. Hill isn't big enough to hold an event of this size, so they erect this massive marquee in the garden, and it changes slightly every year. It's usually the same shape and the same size, but they have different decorations on it to celebrate this year, which is the 40th anniversary. So you can see there's these ruby colored lines here and this kind of decal on the top here because it's their ruby anniversary. You can see they've got these massive stanchions over the top here with these lights on them, and this is the main entrance into the tent. Now, this is a temporary structure. However, planning regulations mean that temporary structures can only be in place for 28 days without requiring planning permission. And the size of this building, it definitely is in breach of planning regulations. You can't build a building this size without planning permission, especially if it's going to be there for longer than 28 days. And of course, it's already been there for more than 28 days, and the event hasn't even happened yet. I've, of course, reported this to the council, who got back to me and said they don't care. I will share these emails soon. But nonetheless, it's a breach of planning regulation, and they just don't have any regard whatsoever for local regulations. If they applied for planning permission, I'm sure they would get it, because it's an annual event that only happens once, that lasts a few days. The tent is up for perhaps 2 months, maybe 3 at a push, depending on how slow they are to build it and take it down. So it is only temporary. However, it is in place longer than the 28-day limit. So if they were to apply for planning permission, I'm sure they'd get it. But the point is, they haven't, and that's why it's a problem. Let's say hello to some of the people in the chat. We've got SP Crusader, Leanie here. Hi, Alex and all. Hello, thank you for joining. Gregory Nietzsky says, on the plus side, they won't tell kids to play in traffic. The SP is keeping kids safe. Yep, excellent point. Vault Digger, has the vegetation been removed from the pavement that was illegally placed outside St. Hill entrance yet? Great question. And no, It hasn't. They have 28 days from the point of notification to remove it. That expires on Monday coming, which is a week before the IES event. My understanding is there is ongoing discussions with the council about removing it. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, these are plants that they've planted a hedgerow and installed a fence opposite the St Hill property to obstruct protesters. And they also put temporary planters and hoarding up along the pavement, which causes event attendees to walk in the road where there's traffic rather than using the pavement that gives you access onto the property. So that's ongoing. I will keep you updated. Andy Two Arms here is saying typical of East Grinstead Council. Yes, well, planning actually falls of Mid Sussex District Council, which is the same council that is reviewing Scientology's application for a PSPO, Public Spaces Protection Order, which would ban protesting outside St Hill. So there's a lot of stress and resource being used by the taxpayer at Mid Sussex District Council dealing with Scientology's nonsense. And that's another thing I have a problem with. The council have much bigger and better and more important things to worry about. And Scientology, if they played by the rules, would make it a lot easier and reduce the burden on the council. It would be easier for everybody. But nonetheless, Scientology don't like to play by the rules. But this video is about the childcare arrangements. Now, Scientology have a school in the UK called Greenfields, which is like the Delphi of the UK. It's a private school and it's located about a 10-minute drive or so from St Hill in Forest Row. It is an independent school, and I recently reported that the school actually got their visa status revoked by the Home Office. They rely heavily on international students that are not necessarily Scientologists, that are just duped into paying the school money to send their kids for a private English education. And they had their visa status revoked, and I can't tell you why, and I'm sure it will come out in the press in due course. But there was an inspection and the Home Office said, nope, you can't have international students any longer. That happened earlier this year and Greenfields issued a statement about it. But the problem is that this is a huge proportion of their income because they rely a lot on international students because they can charge higher fees. And I think it's something like 40% of students at Greenfields were international students. So they've lost about 40% of their paying students. I don't know what proportion of their income that equates to, but it's a lot. And it's certainly at least 40% of their annual income. They've also now got to pay a new tax that the government have imposed. VAT now applies to independent school fees, which is about 20%. So overall, they've lost at least 60% of their income as a school this year. And they are trying very, very hard to try and stay afloat financially. And one of the things that you can tell, one of the ways you can tell this is this social media post, which talks about, firstly, the concerning offer that they are making, but secondly, it's another stream of revenue. So let's have a look. This was posted on social media. Hello, I'm the head of the boarding school. I'm the head of boarding at Greenfield School, an applied scholastic school. And for the IAS weekend, we're offering accommodation. It's a 10-minute drive from St Hill in the Ashdown Forest. Remember on the student hat? Now you can get some more mass. So if you'd like to relive your school days, now's your chance. We're asking for a small donation and we will offer breakfast. That's a picture of Greenfield School. So what they are saying here is any adults who are attending the IES event from abroad that need somewhere to stay can stay in the boarding houses at Greenfields. On the face of it, that seems like, what's the problem with that? There's a building there with bedrooms. Why not offer them up and try and make a little bit more money? But the problem is Greenfields has a history of concerning issues and safeguarding issues around children. Now, my understanding is it's October, so it's likely the kids will be on holiday. I don't know. It's not clear whether there will be kids at the school, but it is a weekend. So they're not going to be teaching classes, but there will be boarding students, I'm sure, there, unless they're closed for a holiday, half term or something, in which case there won't be. But regardless, they are offering adults who don't have any criminal record background checks or anything like that an opportunity to stay at Greenfields. And their marketing strapline of remember and come and relive your childhood, that's trying to appeal to people who are adults now that went to Greenfields as kids. Now, I did an interview with Claire Headley just the other day. I think it was published yesterday on her channel, where she talks about her horrific experience at Greenfields and a number of other instances of abuse and neglect that happened at that school. And it's clear that this has been going on for a very long time. A number of my former colleagues at the Church of Scientology London studied at Greenfields and can attest to the horrible treatment of children there, including, for example, Kellycopter. On her channel, she talks about how she was forced to do confessionals and ethics conditions and that sort of thing at Greenfields. So why on earth someone would want to relive their childhood at this school, I don't know. But it just shows how unaware their marketing team are of the horrific and traumatic experiences a lot of the students had at the school. Now, I'm going to show you something here that may be a little bit triggering for some of you. So we're going to be talking about child SA. So if you are the sort of person that might be triggered by this, I would say click off now and come back in a few minutes, because I'm going to read a news article and I don't want anyone to be triggered or traumatized. So here's your warning. We're not going to be talking in graphic detail in terms of describing what's gone on, but we are going to be talking about something that happened at the school. So click away now if you're going to be triggered. This is a news article from 1994. So yes, it was 30 years ago. However, nonetheless, it's something that happened and is in the school's history. This is The Independent, a very well-known, well-respected publication, news organization in the UK. And the title is "Teacher is Jailed for Sex Offences." A school teacher was yesterday jailed for 5 years after he admitted, let's say, inappropriate relations with teenage pupils. Mark Kent, 32, of Forest Row, East Sussex, committed a catalogue of offences against boys at Greenfield School in Forest Row, where he worked. Greenfields is a private school which states in its promotional literature that it employs the educational techniques of L. Ron Hubbard, founder of the Church of Scientology. The school denies that it is an offshoot of the church, but many of the teachers are members of the cult, and the majority of pupils come from Scientology families. Kent is understood to have been one of the few non-Scientologists on staff, which, by the way, a little side note here, is a lie. Mark Kent was very definitely a Scientologist. But Judge John Gower at Hove Crown Court said the boys and parents put their trust in you. You betrayed it for the gratification of your own perverted lust. The court was told how Kent admitted molesting 6 boys over a 7-year period. Kent, a single man, was found to have a videotape which showed him in sexual acts with boys and showed boys showering. He admitted 6 charges of indecent assault and 1 of taking an indecent video. He asked for 2 similar indecent assault charges to be taken into consideration. That's the end of the article. And as I said, it is quite old. However, it's worth noting it happened in 1994, which means anyone who is an adult now that would have been at school in that year, 1994, so people in their late 30s, early 40s, and perhaps a little bit older and a little bit younger, depending on when you join the school and all this. People who are adults now would have been around at the time Mark Kent was teaching at the school. So when Greenfields are promoting this, come back and relive your youth, and you can stay at Greenfields like you did when you were a kid, and it's going to be wonderful. Any student who was at the school in 1993 and 1994 would have remembered Mark Kent and maybe had experiences that aren't going to be so great about this teacher and their time at the school. So why would you want to relive your youth and go and stay there? It just shows how out of touch Greenfields are and how they try to separate themselves from the activities that they are themselves conducive to or allowing to happen on their premises. It's extremely concerning. And it just goes to show how much Scientology want to make a little bit of extra cash through Greenfields by renting out rooms at the school. Now, one thing to note, because it is such a large event, the IAS event, thousands of Scientologists travel from across Europe to go to this thing. Hotels and Airbnbs in the entire town are incredibly booked up the moment the event is announced. All of the hotels in the area, all of the Airbnbs get snapped up very, very quickly. And it is often very hard to find somewhere to stay if you want to attend this event. So there is a need for additional accommodation in the town to host these Scientologists for the couple of nights that they'll be there. However, is it appropriate for these people to be staying at Greenfields when it could be the source of a lot of trauma for them? I don't know, just a question. But perhaps more worryingly, this is another layer which makes it even worse, in my opinion. This is an advert for the childcare arrangements for those attending the IAS event. Childcare available during the live event at St. Hill. Greenfields provides a fully set up childcare facility during the live event weekend, including a variety of fun activities. This service is free of charge and is provided by St. Hill for the live event weekend. All ages from 6 months on up are welcome. Available times Friday 4 p.m. to 11:30 p.m., Saturday 4 p.m. till 12 a.m. Book now by emailing events at Church of Scientology, aushuk.org. This is an advert from Scientology themselves. You can see in the copyright disclaimer at the bottom, it says copyright Church of Scientology, Religious Education College Incorporated, which is the UK arm of Scientology, which is registered in Australia. That's a whole nother thing. But the point is, Scientology are officially offering childcare at Greenfields for the IAS event this year. Which means we have a situation where there will be children at Greenfields during the event weekend, and there will also be complete strangers, random adults from who knows where in Europe, staying at the same school because they're hiring out the boarding rooms, and there's no requirement. It doesn't say there's a requirement for criminal record background checks or anything like that. There's no statement about the separation of the kids and the adults. It's simply saying kids can stay here for free. We'll entertain them while you attend the IES event, and adults can come and stay here too if they want. That, for me, is something that's very, very concerning. I don't believe that children being hosted at a school should be in a situation where they can cross paths with complete strangers, adults, when their parents aren't around, for example, because their parents will be at the IAS event. There will definitely be a few hours crossover where kids are being dropped off, parents are going to the IES event, and new adults are arriving to, unpack their bags and get ready for the event. So, my question is, what are Greenfields doing to protect these children and make sure that they are nowhere near these strange adults who have no connection or criminal record background check or anything like that? It's extremely concerning and not the sort of thing a school should be doing, in my opinion. Now, one thing also to note is this school has been under fire recently. The Independent Schools Inspectorate, the ISI, when it did its latest inspection earlier this year, found a number of safeguarding concerns about children at the school. It said that there was no way for children to report bullying or inappropriate behavior. There was no centralized system for reporting, and the school could do better on multiple fronts. So this is a school with safeguarding concerns that are looking after children on behalf of Scientology and that are also welcoming complete strangers to stay overnight at the school. This is outrageous, and I don't know what to do about it beyond report it to East Sussex. It's one thing to note that Greenfield School actually falls into a different jurisdiction to St. Hill. St. Hill is in West Sussex, Mid Sussex District Council, because it's just that side of the border. However, Greenfields is just over into East Sussex, which is a whole different jurisdiction. It's a different part of the county. It has a different set of councillors, a different set of people in power. So the reports for this should be directed to East Sussex rather than West Sussex or Mid Sussex District Council. But it is extremely concerning, and I would encourage anybody who is concerned to also report this to East Sussex Council and the Independent Schools Inspectorate, because those are the regulators who need to make sure that kids are protected and safeguarded, and how they think it's appropriate for kids to be offloaded to a school where there are safeguarding concerns and mixing with strange adults, especially when there's a history of teachers doing inappropriate things to the kids at that school. The whole thing is extremely worrying. Let's have a little look at these comments here. Paintbox Tunes, what are the odds they are making pupils do the babysitting? That is entirely possible. That has happened in the past, especially considering the adults will likely be expected to be attending the event at St. Hill. Great point. Swedish Lena, I'm getting ads during this live. Interesting. Yes, YouTube put ads in live streams. That's how we as creators get paid. We offer you this content for free. And if you watch the ad, we get a very small proportion of the ad revenue. So thank you for watching the ads. And that allows us to continue doing what we do as creators. You can also support the channel with coffee donations, buy me a coffee and PayPal. There are links down below in the description. There are other ways of you giving back, but watching ads is a really good way of giving back to a creator because we do this work for free, and that's our way of getting a little bit of money back to cover costs associated with running a channel. SP Crusader Lini said it's horrific to even think about. Absolutely. AO Shaw says, would have thought those staying overnight would need DBS checks. Exactly. I agree. I think the least they could do is ensure that adults staying overnight have criminal record background checks done on them to ensure they're not hosting someone like Mark Kent at Greenfields while kids are staying there. Just a thought, but it's unlikely that's going to happen because they've only just started promoting this as an accommodation for adults in the last couple of days. The event is happening next Friday, and DBS checks take several weeks to process. So there's no way they're going to be able to do that sort of background check before opening their doors to these adults. F. Sciento London, is there no government body that oversees childcare? Yes, exactly. I just mentioned that East Sussex Council and the Independent Schools Inspectorate are the ones responsible. There's also, of course, Sussex Police. Andy Two Arms, clearly no point in asking East Grinstead Council to do anything about it. Yes, it's a different jurisdiction. East Grinstead Town Council do not look after Greenfields, nor do Mid Sussex District Council or West Sussex County Council. It is a completely different jurisdiction, even though it's only a 10-minute drive from St. Hill. SP Crusader Lini says, as a 12-year-old, I used to look after the kids. Fills me with fear thinking about it. How them or me survived, I've no idea. Yes, and the allegations of abuse at Greenfields are numerous. I recently spoke to somebody who was at school at the time this stuff happened in 1994 with Mark Kent, and they told me how they and several other people that they are connected to were victims of Mark Kent's who were not included in the police investigation because they were Scientologists and they were too scared to report it to law enforcement. So, although it says in the article X number of people who were victims, the number is much higher because Scientology prohibits Scientologists from reporting each other to law enforcement. You would get punished for doing so. So the number of crimes that were committed by this man is likely higher than what he got convicted for. And it's entirely possible that things continued to happen after that date and they simply haven't been reported. So thank you so much for joining me. It's really important that this is put out there. I think it's appalling that kids are going to be put in a situation where they are potentially unprotected and surrounded by random adults who could do anything to them when their parents are not around. So that's what I've got for you for now. I will be going live later with Natalie Webster, Life After a Cult, this evening. I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to be talking about my recent activism, the protest that's happening next week, and Scientology's attempts to shut us down. Tomorrow, I'll be live streaming with Mark Fisher about what life was like in the Sea Org and what an average day looks like for a Scientology staff member and for the tiny tyrant himself, David Miscavige. And on Thursday, I've got an exciting live lined up for you on someone else's channel, so you have to stay tuned for that. But I'm going to continue going full steam ahead, organizing this protest and dealing with this legal back and forth that's going on at the moment with Scientology trying to do everything within their power to stop us from protesting next week. I'll keep you updated when I can. And if you guys want to support the channel, like I said earlier, please consider buying me a coffee or using the PayPal links down below. But most importantly, make sure you press the like button, the thumbs up down below. Make sure you've clicked the bell to get all notifications when I go live, and make sure, of course, you're subscribed, because all of that stuff helps the algorithm push this message out to more people. This message is particularly important to reach more people, because the more people that are aware of this and that complain about this, the more likely it is that the government are going to step in to do something to protect these children. St Hill had to supply an event management plan to the council ahead of the IAS event, and part of that is a childcare provision. Now, I tried to request this through the Freedom of Information Act request, and the council denied that part of the request. Quite rightfully so. They said that it contains sensitive information that could potentially jeopardize any protections that are put in place. So they're not going to share it with a random member of the public, which I completely understand. However, there is a childcare plan in place, and the fact that the council have it and they have read it and they approve of it is even more concerning when you couple that with the fact that adults are going to be staying there. So the more awareness we have on this issue, the more likely it is the council will step in and say, hey, maybe it's not the best idea to look after children at the same place that adults are going to be staying overnight. So that's it for now from me, guys. Thank you so much for joining, and I will see you on the next one.